just love that music. Right.
We're here. Are we sure?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
folks, I've been
it's
having a
working.
weird problem where my audio and everything freezes during videos only. My countdown got stuck at 12.
Fun times. Well, we're here now. That's the main thing. So we're gonna jump in. So we've got some members of the AWS Amplify team to join us in a minute. But first things first, we have our standard practice things to go through. So welcome to the stream, and we'll see where we go from here. So my name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter community leader and CTO at Dev Angels London, and you can get to me on Twitter at Dev Angels London. Scott.
My name is Scott Stahl. I am also a community leader, one of the organizers of GDG Cleveland, and I also work writing code at Dev Angels London.
And we have a Randall Schwartz, let the Swatch be with him in the background. He's our question magician for today, and you can follow him on Twitter as well, at Randall Schwartz. He's going to be picking out those lovely questions that you keep asking, and just make sure you put a Q in front of them so we can find them during the stream. And today we have a primary guest with us, Salih. Welcome. His mic's muted.
You're muted, Salih.
There we go.
Okay. How are you guys doing? Yeah. How's everything going, man? How's everything going? I'm really excited for today. Today is a special day.
I mean, it's good for me. I think Scott's had some rough days. Everything he's done recently is just going completely wrong.
When we get done with this stream, I'm going to shut my computer down and go to Micro Center. Which, if any of you are not familiar, Micro Center is basically like a Fry's Electronics, or it's the kind of place where you buy computer parts to put together a fire-breathing monster. But so far this week, I have seized a 2 terabyte platter drive. I have caught a 2 terabyte SSD on fire. I have jinxed Simon into screwing up a production database, which caused an hour of panic.
It's obviously it's his fault.
A moment ago, I dropped a pint of liquid that far from my UPS.
All right. Well, stop talking about bad things, and maybe we'll get some good stuff happening. Talking of which, Scott, there's one thing you need to do. The do's and don'ts.
Do's and don'ts. All right. Be nice. Be respectful. Be constructive. This is not Reddit. We have standards. Don't post anything that's adult, rude, offensive. I mean, come on. This is really basic stuff, folks. Don't advertise or promote your services. This is not the place for you to try to find a job, a client, or somebody to make your app. Don't spam the same question over and over. This happens every week, no matter how many times we tell people. We have a queue of questions. And what happens is, if you ask the same question again, we take your question from wherever it is and we put it at the bottom of the queue. If you keep posting it, you keep getting put at the bottom. Then harassment of any kind is not tolerated. This is pretty obvious. Bigotry, incels, misogyny, et cetera, et cetera. If you get tossed from here, your name goes on a list, which means your accounts get locked out in the Flutter community Slack and a number of other places. We are friends with the folks who run the Discord. We have people in our crew who are mods on the Reddit.
And we never forget.
Your life will get
We never
difficult.
forget.
Yes, we never forget. Don't do bad things, or bad things might happen to you. So
we should call this karma show,
karma show, yeah. So I'm already seeing some really good questions coming in, which we're going to get to. But I think first of all, Salih, do you want to introduce your team? And me and Scott will head off in the background, and I'll let you take the host for 5 minutes, and we'll see you soon. Yeah. What we're going to do is, just for everyone at home, we're going to do our some stuff here with AWS Amplify, and we're going to get over to general questions. So just so everyone knows. So get your AWS questions in right now, and the team are here to answer them.
Yeah, perfect.
The floor's all yours.
Let's pull in everyone from the team. Abdallah is here, Mo is here, and Dylan is here. Perfect. Yeah, like once more, hello everyone. It's really great to be here. this, like, I've been on the Humpday Q&A before, but this one is a really special one for me because now I have my team with me, and I'm really looking forward to like introducing them to you because they are the best people, and I'm sure you will be really happy to get to know them. So I will go from my right side first. Abdallah, go ahead, introduce yourself, and let's kick this off.
Awesome. Thank you, Saleh. It's so crazy that we're on this show right now. I've been a watcher of this ever since it started. So been in the Flutter community since 2018. So I'm so excited. And my name's Abdallah. I'm a product manager on the AWS Amplify Flutter team. And I've been with AWS now for about a year. And as I mentioned, I've been just part of the community since 2018. I've used Amplify. I've used Flutter ever since it went live with their first beta version. So huge fan of the framework. Yeah, so I'm super excited to be here.
Cool. Next is Mo. Mo, go ahead, man. Introduce yourself.
Thanks, Saleh. Very excited to be here. My name is Mo. I'm a solution architect on the Amplify team. Looking into our open source experience, Flutter, and etc. We wear multiple hats in AWS as a solution architect. Big fan of Flutter and the experience. Learning a lot already by working with the team, with the community, with Saleh. He's very tough code reviewer. Dylan also the same. So very excited to be with you guys.
Cool. And Dylan, you're next.
Yeah, hey, good morning. My name is Dylan. I'm a software engineer here on Amplify Flutter. I too have been building Flutter apps on and off for the past few years, and just really love to be part of the community. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk about Amplify Flutter.
Cool. Yeah, like lastly, I'm Sadi. I've been developing Flutter apps for a couple of years already, and I've been on the software engineering seat for a while. Now I'm in the other side. I'm on the DA part of it. I'm a developer advocate in the Amplify team. I am really excited to be here and like meeting you and answering your questions. So the next thing that we are going to do is actually, for the folks out there who has no idea what Amplify is, we would like to do an intro, and this intro will come from Abdallah, our product manager. So go ahead, Abdallah, and teach us what Amplify is and what we can do with it, man.
Awesome. Well, AWS Amplify is an open source framework that makes it really easy for front-end developers to build full stack applications fast. Which means depending on whichever front-end framework that you want to use, whether that is Flutter, for iOS that is Swift, or for Android, for example, using Kotlin, or whether you want to use the web using your favorite front-end web framework, you're able to connect your front-end to your backend very quickly and easily using our framework. And you can use that to connect to a backend that's, of course, hosted on AWS. And the way that our framework is split up is really into two parts. The first one is the front-end clients that we provide you, which are our SDKs that allow you to be able to connect to backend resources. And those backend resources are ones that you could use for pieces of functionality like authentication or building API integrations using either GraphQL or REST APIs, or being able to connect to a storage service like our S3, for example, through AWS. Also, on the other side, we also have the Amplify CLI and our Amplify hosting offering. Through the Amplify CLI, what you can do is spin up all of the necessary backend resources for you. And we do that for you in an opinionated way with the default most secure configurations. So you're able to spin up the necessary resources that you need. And then from there, you're able to connect to those resources using the SDKs, the front-end clients that we provide you with. So we provide you with this full framework that you could use in order for you to be able to build full stack applications.
Awesome. So which platforms are we supporting right now over Amplify? Like if I'm a Flutter developer, if I'm looking for using it on my project, what can we do with it? Which platforms are we supporting, and which actually use cases that are the most helpful for us?
So right now, we currently in our main and stable release branches, we support iOS and Android as our primary platforms. However, we do have a developer preview out right now, or a beta, for supporting iOS, Android, web, and desktop for our authentication category. That's our first release. However, our plan is throughout this year is to continue supporting all of the platforms that are supported by Flutter to all of our categories in Amplify. So that would include our API categories, whether that is GraphQL or REST API, our storage category, data store, and analytics. So making sure that all of the categories that we provide are supported on all of the platforms that a Flutter developer would want to use.
Awesome, great. I mean, the rewrite seems to be a great story. Like, I know the behind the scenes story, but like one of the exciting things is that we have someone from the engineering team here to actually give us a background story. What is what does rewrite mean, and what did they do to make this decision, and so on. So Dylan, like, can you walk us through about this? Like, how can you help us? How can you let the people know that understand what is the rewrite and what are the things that you're doing behind the scenes?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first evolution of Amplify Flutter was to take the iOS and Android SDKs that were already existing and use platform channels to bind to them and provide an iOS and Android experience out of the box that way. And that got us pretty far, but it was pretty limiting when we wanted to expand to other platforms because we quickly ran out of SDKs to wrap. So the only alternative was basically to rewrite everything in Dart. And in that way, we could basically target all the platforms that Dart and Flutter supported. And it sounded easy, but it was unfortunately quite a big task just because we didn't have even like an AWS SDK in Dart to start with. So we were basically like starting from scratch. And that's why it kind of took so long. It's why, a lot had to go into it. And, it's really exciting to be here because of that, because we've kind of made that first stride towards a full Dart SDK. And, that will allow us to support not only Flutter, but also just pure Dart apps. So if you want to use Amplify, like in a Dart web app or in a CLI app, or even in a server, you'll be able to do that simply because of this kind of new architecture that we've done. So yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. We have made that first step. So I think we'll be able to just continue to build on that from here, which is great.
Which platform was the biggest challenge? Like right now on authentication with the developer preview, Amplify supports like iOS and Android, obviously, but also support in web and desktop, which is macOS, Linux and distributions, and Windows. What was the biggest challenge along the way when you were doing the Dart rewrite?
Yeah, maybe unsurprisingly, it was actually web, I would say, in large part just because a lot of the platform differences when you're running on a desktop or a mobile platform kind of disappear in some ways. There are some platform specific stuff that we had to do for those, but in large part, it's the same paradigm, and the Flutter team has done an amazing job to do most of the work there for us. But when it comes to web, you're writing basically for a different compilation target, which is JavaScript. So there's a lot of different things you have to consider that you may not have to consider for the VM platforms. Dart also has two JavaScript compilers. So there's the Dart dev compiler, DDC, and then Dart to JS. And then those differences can come up, and you have to kind of be aware of those and find ways to mitigate those differences. So I would say web in large part was probably the most challenging platform, just because of all the different little nuances it has.
Yeah, definitely. Even the Flutter team is using a different architecture for web, right? They have a different embedded logic per se, and it's really great to see that in our team actually we are able to tackle this in the Dart way as well, which is quite cool. Cool. There were a couple of questions that I've seen, so I would like to take one of these. I will take the question from Techist because it also answers the question, biggest question about Amplify, and I will direct that question to Mo. AWS Amplify, is AWS Amplify free, and what is the difference between Firebase and AWS? So Mo, can you walk us through with the AWS's tiers of?
Sure.
There, yeah.
So yeah, starting with Amplify is free. The cost is driven by the backend resources that you will use. So for example, the Amplify authentication use AWS Cognito as a backend. And we use for the API, we use AppSync. Those are like, a couple of AWS services, and those drive the cost. But we have like a free tier for on AWS in general, which is very generous. You can run like very impressive apps using that, like with like thousands of users. It depends on your traffic, and also it depends on what other service you'll use it. If you want to specifically about Amplify, as Abdullah said, Amplify is like a gateway for the other services. Amplify is free, but again, it depends on the service that you'll use in the backend. But please go ahead, start building. You will get a lot of free resources on the free tier. I personally have a few apps. One of them is serving, it's not that impressive, but serving like 3,000 users. And I think my AWS bill usually is maximum $2 a month.
Yeah, cool. Actually, since you were talking about the Amplify services, I want to direct you another question with a comment that I've seen. So James Johnson said, the Amplify is for cloud. It doesn't sound offline. Can you tell us about the offline capabilities of Amplify as well, Mo?
Yes, definitely. So when we build Amplify, we think like offline first experience. So for example, we have a data source category where you have like a data app that you can build, like a data app. This will give you, the data source will give you like an engine, offline engine that will be stored in your device, and that engine will sync in background with the cloud. So we'll have a fully functional app, fully functional offline that will give you this data source service with APIs and with the data query, with adding users, etc. All of that totally offline. And in the background, without any effort from your side, without any special implementation, other than adding this data source to your app, it will sync with the cloud when the network allows that. So it's more of an offline first experience.
Cool, awesome. I hope this answers some of your questions, James. So go ahead, check it out, see what you think about it. If you have any questions, come on, join on the Discord, or like just go ahead to the GitHub and create an issue. Like all of our teammates are really responsive. They are the fastest people that I have seen to answer any questions. And like sometimes I get an email, I'm like, okay, I will just answer this. I go to my computer and it's already answered. So I'm sure you will get an answer for your questions. So go ahead and check it out. Cool. So let me check another question. Actually, I want to take this web question and direct that to Dylan. It's about Flutter, not Amplify, but I think you are capable to answer this per se. So from PowerDroid, the question is, I realize one should not rely totally on obfuscation, but when .flutter is compiled to web, is it obfuscated at all the deter a basic level of prying, or is it human readable?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my understanding is that, yeah, when you do like a Flutter build web command to compile to like release mode to ship your app, the default settings are to enable like JavaScript minification. So basically the output of that is like total garbage, like to the eye. Like it's, I don't know if that's like considered obfuscation, but that minification process definitely like obscures a lot of the functionality and makes it more difficult to, to look at and just debug. So.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Like, yeah, that's the answer. So next question is about actually, where was it? We had one question about, does Flutter Amplify support connecting connecting to an existing AppSync API. When I tried that a year ago, that didn't really work well. Abdullah, do you want to take this, or Dylan should take it?
Yeah, I believe I can take it. So we actually do allow you to be able to do that, and we do have documentation as well that details out how you can actually connect to an existing AppSync resource that you have deployed, and we can share that link as well.
Might be worth calling out that it will only work in the API category. So if you do like the offline functionality with data store, then you can't use an existing AppSync API, and that's because like data store specifically requires setting up like the AppSync API in a particular way so that it can do the sync functionality correctly.
Cool. So since you guys answered one question each, I will get the next one because I'm jealous of you. I will get the question from Harshit Kumar. He asked about, could we use .frog with AWS Amplify? So .frog is already used in the backend technologies, and like each backend technology that you have, you can actually use AWS, like any AWS product as well. So I was thinking, actually, like there's a story behind this. I was thinking to make a video about this to, like help the folks out there. And Dylan told me there's a product that I have never heard before. It is called AWS Copilot. And then I said, okay, this actually makes the lives of the folks out there very, very easy. So I made a video, which is on my YouTube channel. I can share the link about .frog and AWS Copilot. So to answer your question, yeah, .frog works quite well with AWS, we might say. Let me share the link in the meantime, or I can share it later on. So let's go with the next question. This question goes to Abdullah as well. It's again from Harshit Kumar. So could you share insights regarding the push notifications in Amplify? Because Firebase is very convenient and popular for push and crash analytics mainly.
Yeah, so I love right now getting this question because I feel like this is affirming a lot of our internal priorities. Definitely what we're focusing on right now is getting push notifications out as fast as we possibly can. We're definitely hearing a lot of our customers, mobile customers, whether that is on Flutter, iOS, or Android, that are really, really needing that feature from Amplify. And we do realize push notifications is not a nice to have; it's a must to have it's a must have for mobile apps. So we're definitely that's one of our immediate priorities for this year. And for crash analytics specifically, we don't have an offering that provides that currently from AWS, but we are working with a couple of AWS service teams to try to see if they can enrich their services to add crash analytics as well to their offering. So that's definitely something that we're currently talking about. And we know that's one of the things that, one of the first things really that developers are looking for, like, do you support push? Do you support crash analytics? So we're definitely working on that. And Dylan is actually my partner on the crash piece specifically. So it's definitely on the docket.
Cool. I think it's a really amazing news as well to share with the folks as well, because like there are people waiting for this news, or like they're like more in the shade. So like, keep in mind, folks, like we are working on this. Just stay tuned. There are a lot of things going on, and just follow us along over like all the social networks and so on, so you can actually have the first opportunity to take a look at what we are working on. I will ask the next question to Mo. Is there a Prime discount for Amplify, Mo?
This is a great question. I was hoping to give this question to me. I'm a Prime member. Unfortunately, there's no Prime discount. And most likely, like, everyone know, like, working with a corporate like Amazon, it's a huge, you can just get lost there. Prime, we don't know anything about the Prime department. We are customers like everyone else. I enjoy my Prime service, but again, let me iterate, Amplify is free to get started. The free tier in AWS is very generous. start building and see how much it will cost. You will be surprised in a good way, not like the Prime, but in a good way that the cost will be not that high.
I really like the comment from Randall. You get your data in 1 day instead of 3 with Prime.
Actually, we are now even faster than 1 day. You get in 1 second, if not less.
Cool. So perfect. Like, one thing that I want to carry on with actually the team infrastructure that we have like within the Amplify team. In the meantime, by the way, just ask your questions. We are more than happy to answer any question that you have, like any particular architectural questions, any technological questions. We are here and listening to you. Also, there was one label stating that even more doesn't have discount. That was perfect. I will get a screenshot of this and share it later on over Twitter. So like, Dylan, can you tell us a bit about like how the team is working and like how many people are in the team so we can actually acknowledge them as well, because we are bigger than these 4 people, right? Like we have a huge team behind us that is making these rewrite and everything possible. So like I want to give them the proper shout out as well.
Yeah. We've got a handful of people working on this behind the scenes on Amplify Flutter. I think we have like a pretty tight knit team, and again, it takes a village to do this kind of stuff. So I'm really lucky to have all the people we have and all the amazing talent we have here working on this. So it's it's really exciting.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's really. I wish that we could have brought everyone in, right? Like just fill out this like StreamYard screen, but even for StreamYard, I think we cannot fill this in with the mindset and with the strength of all the people behind the scenes that is working on it. Cool. That was really cool. Okay, like right now I don't see like any other questions, so I will pull in Scott and Simon in, so I'm sure they have questions that they want to shout at us. So go ahead, guys.
So actually, throughout that, I actually had a question. I was thinking about, there's those clients that are already using Firebase, right? And they go try AWS, and they're like, AWS Amplify, this solves the problem, but I have a current existing client base that's already using Firebase, right? So they want to transition across. Is there a way of using like, you're gonna have to bear with me here. I haven't used AWS Amplify personally myself, so this is all new to me.
Shame.
I'm trying to remember what it's called. AWS is it Cognito, the logging system, right? Is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So is there a way to actually, for let's say I had some customers that are using Firebase authentication to maybe do like a bulk set, get all my users set up on that architect, on AWS Amplify, and then start sort of migrating the customer base over? Is that a thing that you guys have documentation on, or is that something that you're trying to do?
Abdallah?
So we're currently actually working on documentation for that. Like we've definitely heard from customers asking for exactly that. Like help me migrate off, or help me, for example, use Cognito for my identity management. I still want to use, for example, push notifications from Firebase, but I want to use user management in Amplify. Or I really like GraphQL, I really like data store, but I still want to use, for example, authentication from Flutter, from Firebase. So there's definitely flavors of both. So we're working on documentation to provide that to the community. That's definitely something that we're working on right now.
Scott, do you have any direct questions at the moment?
Actually, I've got one for Dylan. Dylan,
What's up, Scott?
What kind of base is that behind you?
It's an electric guitar. It's an Ibanez.
It looks almost like a bass. I swear there's 4 tuning pegs.
Oh, no? Yeah, I don't know. Could be the angle. It's this guy though.
Oh dear. You're getting Scott started on something here. You do not want to go down this road.
There you go.
Oh dear.
Everyone's
Everyone's going to get the guitars in a minute, right?
So you have to be a musician to be part of the Amplify team.
You know, I am amazed at how many developers play music. And actually, in a way, I'm not, because it's that same creativity, at least when you're working on front end, that, it's that same outlet.
I see a few AWS questions that have come in that we didn't get to. I'm gonna bring these up. So, is this a simple question to answer? I'm not sure. What is the core difference between AWS Amplify and Firebase? I mean, they're just different products, right? I mean,
there's a lot of opinions. There's definitely a lot of opinions about this. We get this question constantly. I would say like the power of Amplify really lies, in my opinion, into two things. The first one is our GraphQL integrations with AppSync, AWS AppSync under the hood, and the ability for you to be able to visually create your data model that you're going to be able to use to integrate with, that will basically set up what your data structure is going to look like in the backend and how you interact with it using GraphQL. That's really like one of our strong differentiators. Because then, like as a developer building an app, one of the first things that I do is I go in and I set what my data model is going to look like for my app. So being able to do that visually and be able to create my models, create the relationships between my models, and then after all of that is done, being able to code gen all of those details, and I'm able to use that in my front-end application through GraphQL, which is highly customizable. That's really, really powerful, and that unlocks a lot of speed for me as a developer. I would say that's one. And then the other piece is also the fact that with Amplify, you really aren't limited with how you scale. So that means, yes, we do spin up resources for you, and we do spin those resources for you under the hood with default configurations. But then using CDK, which is infrastructure as code, you're able to extend upon the features of Amplify and add whichever additional AWS services that you need, bundle those all into your Amplify projects, and then be able to extend the feature set of your application. So you're not really just provided with the feature set that's Amplify provides out of the box with our SDKs. You also are able to extend it even further using our extensibility features.
Nice. So there are a few more questions that have come in. I think this kind of falls onto the prime side of things. I don't know. Could we use Amplify if we have AWS credit? I mean, I'm sure you can, right?
Yes, you can.
I mean, you were saying that there's a free tier, right? So just anyone on the call, anyone viewing right now could just go log into AWS, set up an Amplify account or whatever it is, and
you can start with the CLI to add the Amplify to your app, for example, or the Amplify Studio. The credit is getting applied outside Amplify, so you can apply to your AWS account. And as we said, Amplify use all those AWS services in the back end, and those will consume your credit. So Amplify as standalone is, we don't charge for using Amplify, but you will get charged for using Cognito, for using AppSync, for using DynamoDB, etc. Yes. Yeah. So you apply the credit to your account, and it will work perfectly.
Nice.
You know, I believe this question has to do with AWS Amplify, but continuous integration and build for Mac. Or is that
I can answer it, but I don't think it's with Amplify. But since I did this with Superlist, I can answer this. The answer is yes, you can.
You can create an S3, yes.
I mean, whatever's like CI/CD tool that you have, you can actually have the Flutter ecosystem, or like Flutter dependencies on it, and you can have the build for Mac and get the artifacts, sign them, and share it with other folks in any other platform out there that is doing distribution. So the answer is yes. Only thing that you need to do is you need to check out my amazing blog post. Wait a second. Now I remember that I wrote something about it. Oh my God.
I'm right in thinking that, you can spin up an EC2 Mac instance.
Yeah, that's true.
install
Well,
and build runner or whatever for GitHub Actions or whatever you're using, and away you go.
You are shameless with your plugs. So.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely. Now, another interesting one, though, from personal experience. If you set up your CI/CD using EC2 or S3, either way, you have to make sure that your developers are updating their Flutter SDK. Because I went to all this trouble to set up CI/CD one time for a client, and their other developers were refusing to update. And when they couldn't push to the CI without failing, they tried to blame the CI/CD. And you have to remember, every single time you push, it's going to spin up a new VM and download the latest Flutter SDK. Not the one that's on your desktop, the latest one. So it's up to you to make sure that you have the latest one, or it's not going to work.
But didn't correct me if I'm wrong, but won't you be able to just lock the version? Isn't it possible?
I think a lot of the things you can, right? Well, if you spin up a Docker container, you can spin up like a parent which has like a certain version of Flutter installed.
Yeah,
you could, but should?
If you don't want to beat the other developers,
if you want to be, I don't know, if you want to have all of your packages be far behind.
I think there's another question here. I don't know. Do we have a repo with all the AWS Amplify features that we can just change the configuration of AWS into, and it will work well, just like a quick start? I guess, is there an examples repo for people to try out some of the AWS Amplify features?
I mean, we have a documentation and getting started guide. If we can share the link, that would be great. This is one thing. Another shameless plug is that the project from Felix Angelo called Mason and Mason CLI, and for starting off real fast, I also created a tool with that called Amplify Starter. So you just run the command and it will create the Amplify project for you by doing also the configuration as well. So you can either check the getting started guide that we have over our website, and if you don't want to check out the website, we also have the Amplify Starter as well. Let me share the links with you guys. Wait a second.
Well, keep your questions coming in, everyone. We have a Randall behind the scenes. You can make sure they're all queued up for us. So get them in right now with the queue in front of them, and we'll get them answered. In the meantime, I don't see any more AWS specific ones, so I think we'll jump into a few general Flutter ones. Salih, if the team need to head off, you let us know. I don't want to hold anyone on if they need to go to meetings or anything like that. So
yeah, of course.
I'm going to go top down, the oldest one, Kevin Moore. Hey, Kevin, that's a long time. He's one of the authors of Flutter Apprentice. A different Kevin Moore from the Dart team, Kevin Moore. Just FYI. Right. What happens when you're debugging an app and you disconnect the cable? Why does the app lose some functionality? Older version. Okay, so I think I know what's going on here. So when you first build your application in Flutter, it builds it tries to not ahead of time. It builds into the distribution of, let's say, your Android app, the code and the assets that you started it up with. Then when you hot reload, those assets are not modified. It only modifies them in memory. So when your app restarts, it starts up with the initial set that it started with when you did a initial run, and then therefore you're kind of running the older version of your app. It's kind of a common thing that can happen. The answer to this is, if you're trying to do this also happens if you're trying to do things like trying to debug push notification. You have to force quit your app and start it up again. You need to make sure that you're initially starting it with your version of your app fresh, basically. So do a nice Flutter clean, start it up fresh, and you'll be guaranteed that the version that is going to, each time the app needs to start on Android, it's going to start with the same version. And
in essence,
it's one of those things. It's to support hot reload. yeah, hot reload and hot restart, the way they work is over the air, so it does not update the shipped APK that's shipped onto your device when you initially run your application, basically. Anything you want to add? Anyone else? No. All right, let's crack on. Jacob Miller. What are the best ways to handle denied permissions with permission handler package? I mean, the problem you've got, so I can talk to the Android specific part of this, and that is, if I remember right, you cannot know that you've been denied always. Like you know that it's been denied, but not how it's been denied, right? So it can get really complicated. To be honest, the best ways to handle them, there are actual material design guidelines and guides from Android and iOS on how you should handle this. But when they added permissions into I can't remember what they called them now, like, because originally you would ship your app on the App Store and it would come with the permissions. You had to accept the permissions when you installed the app. Now they have active permissions. The idea is that, we only request the camera when you want to use the camera, right? Which is a lot nicer for the user because it means that not in the background, the app's not trying to use the camera. The problem with this is if they deny the camera permission, what do you do when you need that functionality? So you can tell the user, no, you need to accept this permission. And normally the recommended approach to what what Google and Apple suggest is to present the user with a dialog box that says why you want the permission before you ask for the permission. So you can say, we need the permission to capture images to upload your profile picture or something. And then it's like, okay, then it asks for the permission. That's what it is on Android. On iOS, you're required to ship a reason as part of your description in your plist file. And that gets presented to the user when it asks for the permission. So yeah, you can only ask, and if it's denied, well, you have to disable functionality in your app, right? Like, they don't accept the camera, then denied, and you don't let them change their profile picture. Give them a little warning on the screen or something. You need to go into your settings and allow the permission or retry or something. But it's a UX problem really at that point.
So one more here. James, I think he put a question mark on the end of that because he said, please. I think he's begging.
Yeah, I will. So first of all, this is the last question, unfortunately, for us to take. So before we answer this question, I want to thank, obviously, to Scott and Simon and our hidden hero Randall to answer all the questions, and thank you everyone for attending. And I want to thank my teammates for being here and actually making this a great live stream as well. And I want to give them a chance to say goodbye. And I will start with Mo, and I will also let Mo answer that question if we have any. Yeah.
Sure. So unfortunately, we don't have coupons this time, but wait, so there's some good news. But we have a Discord server. We have I think 80,000 members or something. And we do a weekly office hour where if you attend, you might get a chance to get some credits there. Sometimes we do events from time to time. We talk about hackathons and things like that. So yeah, please join the Discord. Bring your questions, share your stories and what you're doing with Amplify. And who knows, you might get something out of this, other than, of course, the knowledge and the learning and helping the community, all those things.
Abdallah, you go next.
Yes, thank you so much, Simon, Scott, and Randall for having us. I've been a huge fan of the show, and please don't stop doing this. I think there's so much great educational content that's been created because of this, and yeah, thank you so much for having us. And I want to say one last thing to the community is we're open source, and we definitely try to embody that in everything that we do. So if ever you have feedback for us, if you've ever experienced issues or have feedback for us, please use our GitHub repo and also use our Discord server as well to leave us any feedback. Where usually you could find us at the #Flutter Help channel. Yeah, you'll definitely see me, Mo, and Dylan answering a ton of questions there.
Well, thank you for having us. Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah.
we'll see you. Oh, go on. Sorry, Dylan.
No,
Go
I
ahead,
mean, I like, Dylan, do you want to go or do you want to stay?
I just saw a couple other questions come in, so I'm happy to stick around for a couple of extra minutes and answer those if people have to bounce.
I mean, you all can stay as long as you want. But I did also want to bring up one other thing. Sally,
Tell me.
what is your talk about at Flutter Vikings?
Thank you, Scott. I'm really glad that you talked about it.
I will see you there.
Just to mention that there are still tickets available. So please, if you haven't got a ticket and you want to come, it's fluttervikings.com. Go sign up.
Norse Air is very reasonable from the States. I got a ticket with less than 2 weeks notice.
Yeah. Also, it will be a great opportunity to meet the community folks. Like, everyone from all around the world will be there. Like, I mean, from the Amplify team, Mo and Abdallah will be there.
Guys.
I mean, Mo and Abdallah will be there as
well. We're going too, so we're going to see you there.
Wrong way.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, Dylan, what happened?
I know.
You can get a ticket, Ben. I'm telling you.
I don't know if it's in the cards this year. I really wanted to go though.
Like,
I'll be there in spirit.
Yeah. He will watch everything afterwards on YouTube.
And we'll also tell you what you said wrong and what you did wrong.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Dylan will be here to, represent us for the rest of the time. And I will be on the chat section, but I will be also living with the Mo and Abdallah. So thank you one more time. And you can.
Thank you.
And
out of
actually, there's one more Amplify question. It looks like a really good one. Okay. So it looks like it's up to you two to answer it.
So you're heading off? Or you're going to stick around?
Okay. I will stay for this question, but Dylan, go ahead. You answered this. Yeah.
Happy to answer this. Yeah. So I think, yes, the first answer is yes, we do support Firebase like functions. We use AWS Lambda behind the scenes in the Amplify Functions category. And currently we support, I think out of the box, like JavaScript, TypeScript, .NET, Go, and Java and Python. Unfortunately, not yet Dart, but I think one of my personal goals.
Didn't hit Dart in that list, man.
I know.
If we only knew somebody on the Amplify team who knows Dart.
Yeah, I know. It's coming.
Yeah.
It's one of my personal goals because I just love using Dart wherever I can. I sprinkle it into everything. So once we get that Lambda support, it'll be a thing of beauty for sure.
Yeah. Also, like, there's a custom like Dart runtime, so like you can use it as well. But like, stay tuned again. I'm working on some stuff to make your life easier. But yeah, just stay tuned. Nothing for the time being.
Right. Yeah, Dart and Rust. Yeah, exactly. You can use. Oh, sorry. I was going to say you can use them on AWS Lambda, just not through Amplify yet.
Exactly. Okay, now you can take me off as well, and I will leave you in good hands, Dylan. And thank you for having me.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah. Bye.
So, if there's any other AWS questions, get them in now. AWS Amplify questions, should I say? There's a few more questions coming in, so let's see what we've got going through the list.
Actually, don't we have somebody else around who can answer?
I don't know. I think we do. Hey, it's Randall. Welcome to the stream, Randall.
Hey, hi. Welcome back. I'm happy to be back. Happy to be back. Not welcoming you back. You already were here.
So cool. Actually, in a previous Q&A, you said that to use FutureBuilder for an async-init, I've been setting a flag in the state where init is done and reacting to that in build. Should I refactor that or not? Worth it?
I'm trying to get the full context for this question. So maybe if you want to explain or expand a little bit, I think I was talking about how to basically have something you have to do while you're starting up, with something that belongs near the main so that you can say talk to Firebase or talk to Amplify from the very beginning of your program. And the traditional way for doing that was using a feature builder that would switch different code paths depending on whether the feature was complete or not. I had a slightly different take on it, which is that you can always call run twice.
Run out.
And I've made a video on that. That's now on my YouTube channel, which I'll post a link to in a minute. And it's actually gotten quite a lot of response. I got 1,000 downloads, so people are definitely interested in that topic. So
if this is also like just like
I didn't know I could do this.
If this is just like an async init state, then I mean, like you don't need a flag to like say that you finished building. You can just have you can actually use a future builder and just initialize your future during init state, and then just have your future builder always be past the same future. And that way, inside the future builder's builder function, you can then say, you know, if connection state is done, then it's finished. So show the UI, otherwise show some loading UI or vice versa.
Yeah, I was going to say if you do need to show UI before this finishes, then definitely a future builder. But if you're not, if it's going to be a short time frame and you're not going to need to show UI before then, post frame callback.
Yeah. I mean,
the catch with feature builder.
You're not going to show anything.
So go on, Dylan. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, no worries. I was going to say the catch with feature builder is always that, for me, that you have to pass in an actual future, right? So every time build was called, like that future was going to be executed versus like a function that returned a future, right? Where it would be executed on demand, maybe in like the init state of that feature builder.
I say, yeah. So the problem here is if you specify a function that returns a future, then it's going to create a new feature every time build is called, right? Which is something you probably don't want to do. Right.
You definitely don't want to be rerunning something from an init state.
If you pass a future in that's already been created, it won't rerun the future. You're just monitoring the status of that future. So it's the actual execution of the future function that returns the async future. That is actually what executes it. It's not the use of future builder that executes it.
Interesting. Okay, I was probably doing something wrong. But it seems
it's quite common that if you don't pass initial data or you call a function that returns a future in your build, that you kind of get a sort of a rerunning of the future every single time.
And in fact, I actually have a video I made on that about a year ago almost now, and that talks about how people have not read the documentations properly on Future Builder or Stream Builder. Same problem applies to both. And I thought that video was a casual video, and I thought, well, nobody's going to want to watch this. It turns out to get referred to 3 or 4 times a day on Stack Overflow, 3 or 4 times a day in the Flutter Discord, because it is something a lot of people keep doing.
It's a common problem. I think what we really need, and in fact, I might do a PR for this and see if the Flutter team want to accept it, is like a create parameter for Future Builder, Stream Builder, which takes a function that returns a future, and it will only run that during the initialization, and it will keep that future, something like that, like very similar to like provider with a create,
The more I think about this, are we overcomplicating it? I mean, couldn't this just be a regular init state with a future builder in the tree, calling a future that's a function?
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Yeah, but I mean, but just keep init state normal, not async.
No, you can't make an init async. We're saying like inside your init method, you would call a function that returns a future, and you put that into a local state variable, right? So when your widget starts up, you're saving the future, and then you can use that future in Future Builder. Anyway, it's complicated.
Yes, it is.
You put an if statement
in
the tree, and no.
All right.
It'd be nice if it did that for you. Hey guys, I really appreciate the discussion. I do got to hop, but this was really fun, and you guys are amazing. So keep up the great work.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey,
thanks, and it was great having you. We'll see you around.
Awesome.
Bye.
See you around. Thanks. Bye.
And this is the easiest one. Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. It's exactly the same. In fact, they came as so what happened was Dart was originally made as a replacement, if you will, as an alternative, should be the better as an alternative for JavaScript. So there is almost a one-to-one in those two things, and the two have gone in the different directions. But yeah, the idea that you can complete with an error, you can complete with a value is the same. In fact, there is a really, really handy, and this is very underutilized by so many people, completer. Completer is part of the framework, and it's basically allows you to hand back a result from some series of asynchronous operations. It's very handy, and it's used by the framework a lot. So yeah, completer is a class that I think people should check out. Right, let's carry on through. How can I chain emojis?
I don't know whether it's chain or change. Both of them make sense, sort of.
How can I chain emojis to images in text field while writing?
In other words, if you put colon parentheses, change it into a smiley.
So there are actual. So what you're looking for is called an input formatter. It's built into the framework. There is no one specifically for text emojis. There are some packages on Pub. I don't know what they are off the top of my head that do help you support this. And the way it does it is it looks for the sequence of your characters, so like a colon and a bracket. And then what it will do is it will replace that section of text with the smiley emoji. But emojis are just one Unicode character. So then you hit backspace, it will delete the emoji, and you can retype it. But yeah, editing, manipulating input is a really complicated process, and it will drive you insane. So go use a package. Don't try and do it yourself. It really, just saying. This is across like all mobile, because just of the way that soft input, hardware input work, and how you can highlight and select and manipulate the text field. It's a complex interaction. So just be warned. It can be problematic. Anything from you guys? Nope.
Not on that one.
No.
Christian 1712 says, when uploading to the App Store, I get warning about using the notification API, but I didn't declare the entitlement. I don't use notifications, so it's probably a dependency. How do I find out which? With great difficulty. So what you can do, this is particularly what you're seeing here is from the iOS App Store. And the iOS App Store will tell you that you've got notifications, but you've not got the entitlement set. And this is because somewhere in your code it's called, it can call, not that it does call, it can call the APIs for requesting permission for notifications or something. And this is the static analysis that the App Store does. It'll do the same thing. So if you're trying to access like wallet APIs, it'll tell you haven't got the wallet entitlement and things like that, just to help you out and tell you that you've done something wrong. Yeah, as you said here, you're correct. It's the dependency that is doing that. Which dependency is the hard thing? So I would suggest that you open up, you do a Flutter run or build, then open up your iOS folder in Brain, the iOS
VS Code? VS Code?
Xcode.
No. Xcode. Oh
Xcode.
My brain there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You open up.
Somebody's got to keep him on track.
Yeah, you have to open up your iOS folder in Xcode, and then on the left you'll have pods as a project. Inside that you'll find your development pods, and those ones will be the ones that include by Flutter for the plugins. And if you go into those, you'll find the pod spec files, and that'll tell you what they depend on, and you can see those dependencies. And it's kind of a manual process. I don't know of any automated process to do this. Not on iOS. On Android, there is a Gradle dependencies list that you can drop out, and it gives you like a text tree of all your dependencies, and then you can kind of work out if something's wrong. Yeah, it was hard work, but hopefully that puts you in the right direction. Yeah. Good luck.
Got got
Did you have a particular one? I'll just keep going. Do you find Flutter Turing exams difficult? I don't know what any Flutter Turing exams are.
I think he was joking.
I don't know of any exams, and if anybody's claiming that they're doing a certification in Flutter, then it's something they made up.
Turing?
That's an old conversation that that Google and the Flutter team have had, and basically what it's really come down to is who's supposed to figure out the criteria for certification and what makes them qualified to lay it down at all. So
this could just be like, you know, like, do you find any of the interview tests, exams difficult? And the answer is,
he says Turing for matching a job. It's a platform like Upwork.
Oh, never tried.
Oh, no idea.
No idea. Sorry.
Why are snack bars, dialogues, etc., not considered widgets, even though we see them build on the screen? I'm not sure where this question is coming from, because snack bars and dialogues do extend widgets.
Yeah, they are widgets.
They are. I believe they're stateful.
It's. I think the difference is you don't declare them directly yourself normally. You can, and let me be clear, you can do this. You probably don't want to do this, but you can do this. You can literally just wrap whatever widget you have in a stack, and in the top of that stack go alert dialog widget and add your widget, and it'll pop up with alert dialog in the center of your screen. And there was no show dialog, there was no like navigation happening. But the problem now is when you hit the back button, well, it's not going to get rid of the alert dialog. You know, like the reason for having the show dialog is to interact with the navigation stack, and to do that. The same goes for the snack bar. When you show a snack bar widget, you hand it off to the scaffold messenger, and the scaffold messenger communicates with the scaffold to animate it onto the screen. But it's still a widget. And everything you see is a widget.
Yeah, I'm looking at two more questions from the same person, and I'm not sure where you're getting your information or who you've been listening to, but these questions, like if the build context is about the location of widgets, well, right there, it's what's called a false premise question. It's not.
I did say.
So the rest of the question doesn't make any sense.
No, it did say. So last week I did say it is essentially the location of your widget in the tree, because your build context is part of it, right? It's not the only thing it does, but it means that it's the context of your widget where it is in the tree, sure, but it's also about everything else around it, right? That's why it's called the context.
The text theme, the icon theme,
all come through the build context. Now, the interesting point here, just to mention, you can go look this up, element. If you go look at the API, API.flutter.text, API.flutter.dev, and search for element, the element class implements build context, and that's because that's exactly what it is. So whenever you use a build context, it's an element, and an element is, there's three trees in Flutter. There's the render tree, the element tree, and the widget tree. The widgets provide the configuration for elements, and the elements create the render object tree, and that's what you see on the screen. This is the underworkings of it, and there's plenty of talks on this.
Norbert Kozier did a fantastic article on the 3-layer cake, which is those 3 layers right there. And looks like Simon's looking that up, so I'm going to do this one real quick. Once again, why do we need to do casting, especially for lists, maps, etc.? Is Dart not able to infer directly? If you try to explicitly declare something inside your build method, your linter is going to yell at you and tell you to not do that and let the compiler infer it. We infer all the time. You can just declare final my number equals 5, or final my dog's age equals 10. You don't have to do that. Now, one thing though, you want to be a little careful, because if you want it to be a double, the linter will also yell at you if you do like 10.0. But if you try to do type inference with 10 and not 0.0, it's going to infer it as an integer. If you want it to be a double, you need to be specific and put the 0.0. And at that point, the linter is going to yell at you again. So you're going to get yelled at no matter what in that case.
I will just mention,
you're going to have I'm sorry, it's not going to yell at you, but it's going to be the wrong type.
Before we just go off from the last question, I've posted the widgets elements render object video in the chat for anyone that's wants to go watch it. It was done at Flutter Europe by Norbert. Anyway, sorry, go on, Randall.
So I want to take a slightly different take on this. I think what he's talking about here is when you do a JSON decode and you end up with a bunch of maps that map to dynamic, you almost always have to cast them to make sense out of them, because it doesn't know what type all the map values are. It doesn't want to guess on that.
I think what Randall's saying is, in that case, you have to fix the disaster that is dynamic everywhere. That basically takes us back into the JavaScript world where nothing is properly typed.
It's right. Hold on. Slow. You have to think about this. If you're getting some data and you don't know what it is, then it's going to be dynamic. It's going to be dynamic in nature. And that's what deserialization does, right? So you're deserializing into a potential of and however JSON structured. And they use maps of string to dynamic, right? Because it's, or a list of dynamic, because they don't know. It's a list of integers, it's a list of strings, it's a list of this, a list of that. So the idea of doing the casting is your choice as the developer to say, I want to treat this as a list of ints, or I want to treat this as a list of strings. And then, because you can make the option of accepting either, right? So you can say, oh, is it a string, a list of string? Yes, then I will treat it this way. Is it a list of integers? Then I'll treat it differently. That JSON by its very nature is dynamic, and that's what you're falling into. Like, it's just the way it is. That's why we had code generation to sort of help that out, right? So you don't have to have the manual process. And if you're doing it manually, go look at JSON serializable and JSON annotation packages, and or others. There's loads. Right.
Interesting one. How do you show those great animations and visuals for question pop-ups below the video feeds? I think that's a StreamYard question. And
that's it. We're using StreamYard.
Yeah, I mean, you click on. You go into chat and you click on the message and it does it magically.
Do you know what you should do? We should build this in Flutter, and then be like, "Hey, look, these are all animated with Flutter. Open source it. Done."
You're sitting up until 2 a.m. trying to meet deadlines now.
Right.
Last night I was watching the karaoke display because I was up until too late in the night and singing karaoke, and I watched how the words were coming on the screen, and I went, I wonder if I can get like a demo Flutter set too as part of my portfolio. I think that'd be really cool.
It's quite funny as you start getting to Flutter and doing the Flutter UI, right? You start seeing things around you in the world. You're like, can I do that in Flutter? Or how would I do that in Flutter?
But this is where we run into some problems again. I just had this discussion with someone earlier. We need to go back to the Flutter is a UI toolkit. And the problem is that it is so overpowered for a UI toolkit. We can do so much with logic that you wouldn't expect from a UI toolkit. People are expecting Flutter to have the capabilities of the OS. And then they complain, why can't it access the camera natively? Well, because it's not an operating system.
I think the difference here is that I think what you're seeing there is that people conflate Flutter and Dart as one thing, which is good and bad, right? But that happens all the time because Dart is the language you write. That is what you're doing. You're providing the logic in. That's what you're actually building in. But Flutter is the toolkit that makes it accessible to display things on the screen. That's why we call
the language. Flutter's the widgets, basically. Very basically.
How likely is it for push notifications sent as data, not as notifications to iOS device to be shown on the train notifications? They're not, as far as I know. Data notifications are just not displayed. They don't have the alerts, so they don't get shown. If you see them in the tray, that's probably a bug. Do you know what? I'm not sure off the top of my head because I know that's the way it works on Android. And if you look at the Firebase messaging pub package, I'm just going to take you back because I haven't looked at it for a while. I'm going to bring it up right now if I can.
I'm going to throw a couple quick ones up while you're doing that. Let's see here. I got to. We'll mark
too
that
late.
in a moment. Oh no.
So yeah, Firebase messaging. It says unknown platforms because probably it's still processing it. That also happens. Oh look, because they moved the documentation, didn't they? Please see the documentation. They had a table, and the table showed. Really? Apple integration. See, the table is completely gone now, and I don't know where it is. There was a table straight in the README before, which had at what point you'll get you'll get your callbacks and for what reasons. And yeah, apparently it's hidden now. I don't know where it is. No, never mind. Well, I'm sure you'll find it. Usage. We're going to try. Here we go. Here we go. Look. So if your application is the foreground, background, terminate this the states. It doesn't really help. Yeah, no, it's gone. There was a table which would. Here we go. Hang on. Here we go. Here we go. So yeah, data notification. You get an on message, but you get delivered an on background message in the background and terminate cases, and that's what you're asking about. And apparently, are only considered low priority when device application terminated and will be ignored. Data only message considered low priority will be ignored. You can have explicitly prioritize them by entering the additional properties of the payload. There you go. You have to add content available true, and then it will come through. There you go. There's your answer. Read the docs.
All right, I've got 3 real quick I want to knock out, and we're running a bit later than we like. So
I'm trying to keep this under 2 hours.
Yeah, well, we were going to try and do it under an hour, but first one real quick. Michael, when is the next hackathon? Michael, when you volunteer to judge 5,000 entries. Putting together the hackathon is the easy part. Figuring out who won takes weeks for people. And on the biggest, we've been a victim of our own success in a lot of ways. We're trying to keep up with the Medium. We're trying to keep up with the Slack. We're actually looking for a volunteer to help with the GitHub for the orphaned packages right now. Yaron has been dragged away by VGV, and I think they've got him chained under a desk. So he hasn't been able to keep up with that himself. So yeah, and the thing is when we do a hackathon, do you think 5,000 is an exact? No, it's not an exaggeration. Unless we can do it with groups, the way we did the first one with people. There were 80 locations. Then the second
17.
one during COVID, we had to do individuals. That was over 800 entries, and that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we had.
Imagine how big it'll be now. So yeah, that's an interesting question.
We'll mention here. You talk about like when's the hackathon? The Flutter Meetup Network, 62,000 members around, 142 groups in 68 countries. I'll put the link in the chat. Basically, go in here, find your local meetup, and there's events always ongoing, wherever you are, all to do with Flutter, all coming up, obviously, including Flutter Vikings. So,
in addition to the Flutter meetups, you also have GDG groups who would participate. So you got 62,000 people in those meetup groups, plus GDGs. You think I'm kidding with 5,000 entries? If we can't do entries as groups because of COVID still, or because of monkeypox, we would need a staff of 500 to judge the entries. Now,
I'm sure you can find somewhere where you can go to. There's lots of Flutter meetups all around the world.
Well, the thing, if you can go, that's the problem. If you can show up in person safely. So alrighty then.
Anyway.
A couple more real quick I wanted to touch on. One, can we do a code review show? Simon and I have talked about that many times.
Yeah.
We would love to, but we need people to, and we haven't said this before. Okay, so you didn't know. But the decision was we need to announce it on Twitter or something ahead of time so people will send us code so we can look at the code.
Yeah.
To try to do a code review dead cold, you're out of your mind.
Well, the thing is, we said before, on the show, send us an email, us at fluttercommunity.dev, saying that you would like to see a code review on Humpday Q&A, and we'll see what we can do. But so far, we've not received any, as far as I know.
And if we haven't answered that email within about 5 days, ping us on Twitter. Because sometimes, like I said, we're a victim of our own success. And sometimes we're up late at night trying to meet customer deadlines, and we don't get around to checking that email. Okay, one other one right here before I'm going to split. How to start refactoring a large project code base from GetX to RiverPod. I wish I was kidding, but GetX has all their own components stuck in there, like Get Material App. So from the very base, they've changed everything. It's kind of like one of those things from Star Trek or something else, or like Babylon 5, where the thing gets into your body and it puts all the tentacles into your brain and you just can't cut it all out. I'm really
it keeps growing back.
You might be better off starting from scratch and maybe porting your logic. You can reuse your logic.
I was going to say the best thing you could do, I think. So I'm thinking about this, about how much it's going to have integrated in with what you're trying to do. I think you need to, first of all, if it's not already got separation of your business logic from your UI, make that separation first. Then start a new project, and I would move all your business logic. Now you have everything but your UI, and then you can start taking screen by screen and bringing over each screen, getting it hooked up, getting it working, getting logging working, all that kind of stuff. And then finally, you'll be free of GetX and just using RiverPod or whatever other provider. But that's the point here, is that it's just wherever there's no simple answer to this, it's going to be difficult, right? And the best thing you can do is refactor. Use the refactor hotkeys so VS Code, I know, is problematic on this, and I don't know if it's going any better, but I know IntelliJ, because it does all the indexing up front, it does a lot of stuff in memory. You can do some refactoring in IntelliJ, and it'll just like refactor everything across the entire project, like in like a single hotkey. So no matter what you do, it's going to be difficult. Try and use the tools to your advantage. Search and replace within files, everything you can to make it work. Commit regularly, commit often. You'll get there, but sadly, it's going to be difficult.
I won't say it's as difficult as porting an Android app written in Java straight over, but it's somewhere in between. And I'm wondering if it's closer to Android than Flutter. But because of all those get whatevers. So, and you're going to want to set your RiverPod up with all your declarations, with all of your state notifiers and everything, and be ready to use your context.
I have to say that, if you've got this and you're trying to do this and you've got this chance, it gives you a really good opportunity to refactor your UI, to go look at it. Now it's working. Go, how can I make that better? How can I make it more streamlined? Right? How can there's always widgets I don't use. How can I redo this and get a better result? So at the end of this, you're not just going to have an application that's using a different, state management solution, but you're also going to have a better application at the end of it as well. So take the opportunity to refactor other things, not just port.
There are generally at the beginning of a project a lot of problems that you don't know you're going to have. So you don't plan the early parts of it knowing to anticipate the problems that you might get later on. It's not until you build the entire thing once, as weird as it is, they call it the MVP, just getting something out, that you kind of go, oh, wait, I should have had this architecture from the very beginning. And it simplifies a lot of things. Sometimes version 2 is a better deal. Sometimes version 2 is a horrible mess, but that's another day for a story.
The thing that you get, and what Randall's speaking about, is you don't know what you need until you build it a lot of the time. Like so it's once you build your app, then you can go ahead and go, okay, now I know I need to do things this way. I need these features. you can go and refactor and rewrite the entire thing, and what you get out of it is normally your V1, right? So what you got is MVP is your first one, and you get V1 as your after that. Then you can start. This always happens. This is literally a time immemorial in software. You start building on top of it, and you make a mess again, and then you go ahead and do it again, and you do a fresh build all over again and all over again. And this is how software is made, because it's just complicated.
Well, and
yes.
One other interesting thing is, I mean, a long time ago, I was building houses, and I'm going to try and keep this really short. But we built this thing, and we didn't have a lot of lumber left. A delivery was coming in a few days. So the owner of the house was also in construction, and he comes up and looks at this wall with a window, and the window is like off to one side, kind of weird, about that far away from the corner. So I said, "Hey, Sam, what's this space for? I mean, does your wife have like a china cabinet or a family piece of furniture or something?" And he looks at it, he goes, "No, that's strange. What's going on?" And I'm like, "Why isn't the window centered?" I'm like, "We followed the plans. We don't know what to tell you." So he's looking at the plans and looking at the plans, and suddenly he starts screaming and stomping around and throwing things. Turns out they decided to make the house 2 feet wider, and the architect had never recentered the window. Sounds like an easy problem to fix, right? It was faster, and we actually did hang off the side of the house, because this was not on the ground floor. Cut the bottom completely off from the floor, kicked that wall off, and just let it fall on the ground and built a new one. And we did that probably in a quarter of the time it would have taken to try to rip the old one apart and fix it. So when I say restart, and when Simon's talking about move your business logic, we're not kidding. Trying to do surgery on that thing is going to take you longer than a rewrite.
Do you know what it just remind me of? It reminded me of that whole thing they had with, I can't remember what robot went to Mars, where they measured imperial instead of like norm, or they got metric and like inches mixed up or something, and it crashed because it wasn't clear on the designs what measurement was. So
feet per second versus meters per second. That was the Mars observer or something like that. Yeah,
I don't remember which one it was, but anyway,
Mars thing though.
All right, last thing for me on my way out the door here. I am tracking that down right now for you.
I got the Dart language funnel already. Funnel's already in.
There we go.
So you can skip that one.
Subjective roadmap.
Oh, that's not what he was looking for.
No, it was. You said to the roadmap thing.
He was talking about links to the roadmaps that I mentioned 3 messages earlier about roadmaps for Dart and Flutter development, not people.
Well, no, this is for Dart and Flutter development to learn.
Changes in Dart and Flutter. Things that are happening by the devs.
The team roadmaps. Not learning roadmap.
And I put one in already. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I put one in already, the Dart language funnel. I don't know where the appropriate one is for Flutter. Is there a Flutter one like that?
I'll grab it up here.
Sure. Thanks, Simon.
Okay, and it is 90 minutes in right now, about half an hour after I had planned to be here. We are trying very hard to cut these down to an hour now. We originally started at 3, then we cut it to 2, and we've actually got work now.
So quickly, you go to Flutter, GitHub, Flutter, go to the wiki, and here, if you want to learn more about the future roadmap, and you click on that, that takes you to the roadmap page. And this talks about the Google strategy they've each released their internal strategy document, and about what they're trying to do this year and what they're concentrating on, and what Dart's going to concentrate on, and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. That is the roadmap. If that's what you're asking about. Anyway,
cool.
Right. I will
same time, same channel. Hopefully, I'll be a little better at this thing when you see me again.
I'll see you soon, Scott. We're gonna get these final questions answered, and we're gonna head off ourselves.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Sounds good. Take care.
Bye, Scott. See you next week. And now it's just down to the 2 of us. Between us, we have to
And there
share a common mind.
And there was,
We each get one. Though.
what was that? What was the introduction to Bionic Man? It was like, we can rebuild him. We can make him stronger.
Yeah, right.
Something like that, right?
We have the technology. We have the money.
technology.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
What is the easiest way to handle the badge count on push notifications for iOS devices? With great difficulty. So when you send a push notification, you can send a count number in the push notification, and when the notification received, it always gives you that count. I believe local notifications package also lets you set it. In fact, let's go take a look. So pub.dev, and it's called local notifications. So, discontinued. Okay. No longer active. Developed Flutter. Oh, sorry, Flutter local notifications. I get it wrong. So this is the new name for it, Flutter local notifications. And in here, I'm going to go back and search Flutter local notifications. That's the one. So in here, when you want to display a notification, it's probably in the examples to be fair, but when you initialize, I'll find it in a second here, iOS and presentation badge number. There you go, int badge number, and that's what you're looking for. So basically, when you do your notification through this package, you can just set your you want to present the badge, and then that you want this badge number to be shown, and that's what it'll do. It'll show a notification with that number, and then you can just, if you're talking about like how to handle the badge count, which can obviously be a different thing, is, well, you need to save it. So have like ISAR for like an offline data store, or simply oh my goodness, what's the package called? But anyway, come on, Randall, you got to help me out here. What's the go-to state persistence package thing?
Data systems,
When you want to persist some state in your application, just some variables.
Well, there's ISAR.
You got SQLite, ISAR. What's the one made by the Flutter team? Oh my goodness.
Shared preferences? No.
Shared preferences. Yeah,
you're right.
Sorry.
Okay,
shared preferences. Yeah. So you can just use shared preferences, have a key called badge count, and each time you get a new notification, you get something for the user, increment it by one, then a new local notification with that new count. There you go. And if they dismiss
the chat room concurs. The chat room concurs. Yeah. Shared preferences. Yes.
I am hungry. When I'm hungry, I cannot think. This is. Okay. I found this out today.
All right.
Never be hungry then. So, yes. So am I building an app where there is an admin and a user intertwined with each other? So if the admin changes some data, if an admin changes it, does it immediately reflect for all other users in real time?
Well,
that's about how you distribute your data.
If you write the code, it'll do it.
So you can do that, and in fact, lots of apps do that. They take it. So the easiest, most simplest way of doing this is use Firestore. So Firestore, you can listen to a stream of query snapshot, and then whenever the data changes in the database, you'll get pushed down to your app, and then your app can then update the UI, and that's just using a stream builder. Okay, that's what I'd say is a go-to. Other than that, if you want to do your own back-end server and things like that, which is a big ask, but you can use WebSockets and things like that. Also, if you have an API that you're trying to hook into that does live notifications, it probably uses WebSockets or some other long pole mechanism. There's a few different ways of doing it, text streams and all sorts. So the answer is yes, you can do that, and like have it so that when the admin like updates or adds content, it pops up on the user's device immediately. The best way to do that is for the basic developer or beginning developer is Firestore. It will just magically happen for you. So
right,
and there's lots of tutorials as well for that. So
many tutorials, some of which are not out of date.
Oh, I missed this one earlier. I don't think this was posted earlier. Can we get user details after login with Amplify without explicitly calling Amplify or fetch user attributes? How? Why not explicitly call it? What's the problem with explicitly calling it?
This was very close to the end of their presence on the show, so
I'm
that's
like,
where
it says after logging.
After logging.
I mean, it says without explicitly calling it. Well, why not?
Where are you going to get it? Magic fairy dust? I don't understand.
I'm just like, well,
you got to call that call at some point. Yes.
I'm not sure why. Like, what would be the problem? Your problem sounds to me like your problem might be that you're trying to it's asynchronous, and you're trying to get around the fact that you have to do that same asynchronous operation. Do this as part of your login. Make the entire function that does login and then fetch in one unique thing. And it's after that they're logged in. You're not monitoring
in the chat. It says in the chat he says it's consuming extra time. Well, just take time.
The other thing you can do, just to be clear, the other thing you can do is save it into a file. Like, take that object, store it as JSON, save it in a file. Next time your app starts up, it just reads it's there immediately. You don't have to call it again. There you go. Cache it. Obviously, if it changes whilst the user's not logged into the app, then you don't get that change. You have to refresh it. So, but you can do that in the background. Right. You don't have to stall your application startup waiting for the user attributes because you've already got the cached one. There's ways of doing this. There's definitely ways of doing this.
Sure.
Always cache data. Always cache data.
Yes.
When on Flutter Web, should every page have its own scaffold, or sharing a scaffold is fine? P.S. Asking about sharing scaffold because we'll probably a fixed expanded for common side nav. You don't need a scaffold at all. So that's the answer to that one. I mean, should every page have a scaffold, its own scaffold, or sharing a scaffold is fine. I mean, every page is gonna. I think you could do it either way. There's no like particular way of doing it. I just don't know why you would. You're saying you ask about sharing scaffold because of fixed expanded for common.
I don't have
the context here to really kind of see what you're trying to do. I mean, if you've got like a side nav and you want that fixed so that you can navigate between all the pages and it's always there, then you should be showing that inside of your, you should not be using well, you could use a scaffold, but you should be done inside the builder. It's a material app builder parameter. And that you can return a scaffold from that with a side drawer that's always open, or you can just return a row with an expanded with your side nav, and there you go. Now every page that the child is passing to builder is the navigator. You put that where your body is, right? So that'd be like your second child in your row, and now you'll always have a menu on the left, and your pages, when you tap on the menu items, your pages will change on the right. So go play around with material app.builder. I think that'd be what I suggest you go to.
Yep.
Question. Go router. What is the difference between param and extra? So
what's for cells when you need them?
Well, I can think since my experience of Go Router, I can answer this, and I'm going to answer it by bringing some stuff up on the screen so we can all be talking about the same thing. Let's see if this works. Go Router. So you're asking about the fact that when you get a that's not what I want. When you go to when you build your Go router, you provide routes, which are Go routes, and they have a builder. You get given the state, and inside state you have params, query params, and you have extra. So when these query params come off of the query string. So inside your URL, you can do $blah equals 10. And then you'll get a key called blah, and the value will be 10 as a string, right? That's what these query params are. The params here are also passed out parameters. These are coming in from the URI. So when you define your route path, I don't know if it's documents in here. It is not, but you can do a pattern, and in that pattern for your route, the parameters that extracted out will be passed in the params of your Go router state. The extra is particularly an object that you supplied inside your route. So extra is if I go to Go router, let's say, if I can find it, Go. Here's the Go method here. You'll see you can provide an extra object. That can be any object in the world. You can provide that object, and then that object itself will be attached as the extra to your Go router state. And that's what that is. They're two separate things. So if I'm navigating, I already have the content for the new page, I'll pass in extra. If I'm navigating, I don't have the content, but I have the ID, then that's going to be considered part of the URL, and that will be extracted like P1 here. I can do a pattern match for this, and this will be a parameter. This is the query parameters on the end here. So there you go. Hopefully that helps. If that's too quick, go back and watch it again.
Yes.
try to get through his question. Yeah. Put it on at half speed and watch me like sound like some demon from beyond. Right. Part one. I'm trying to develop a multi-platform app. Good on you. Web on priority, but should support tablets and more smaller form factors. What will be the best approach? Exactly what you're doing. Build it on web, and that kind of satisfies tablet, and then you can then start doing like layout builders and things like that to work with smaller designs. But to be honest, once you've got a design that's large, you can then take that, do that in Figma or some other sort of editing program, and see what it looks like when it's small and kind of work out your UX. Once you have your UX designed for it being like a phone size screen, you can then put in your layout builders and your code changes to make that happen. If you start hacking away, right, you're going to end up with a mess probably. Try and design it first, I'd say, for a smaller screen factor, because there's several things that just don't work. You can't just take a large form factor, make it a small screen. Same goes, you can't take a phone app and make it work on it'll just look like a horrible mess when you put that on tablet or on desktop or web. Right? So they're two UX.
One of the
different.
great things about targeting web and desktop as your initial platforms before hitting mobile is that you can experiment real quickly with changing the size and seeing what it would look like on various size tablets and mobile applications, devices. Sorry. And that's really nice. That's really advantage of web and desktop. Is it can be resized.
I just remembered also inside the Chrome developer tools, you'll find that there's I don't know if I can bring this up on screen if it will come up, but let's find out. Will the developer tools come up? No, it just squishes down. Sorry. Never mind. But anyway, in the developer tools, there's a button on the far left. On Windows, it says it's Control-Shift-M. It's called Device Toolbar, and it lets you choose a different device to view the site in. So you can view the site in mobile or in tablet. And you can choose like a Samsung Tab 10 or something. So you can experiment there, which can be helpful when trying to see what your layouts look like. But for the most part, I think you're doing it right. There are some, there's Widget Book, and there's a few other, I'm trying to think, there's a device, was it Rody Davis or Alos Daniel? A couple of people in the community have built some things which let you kind of start up like a web app and have your app multiple times in different form factors so you can see what they all look like side by side. That can also be helpful. Part two. Oh, it's a part one. There's a part two. Conditionally orienting. Oh, see, I should have read part two. Conditionally orienting the widgets using some packages such as responsive framework and any other approach. The requirements like Flutter. Oh, Flutterfolio. That's one.
I think that one is one of the ones that scales the size of text, and that you should never do.
No, you don't want to do.
Don't scale the size of your text based on your screen width. That's just wrong.
You say responsive framework. You just don't. I mean, there's always widgets that help, and if you choose one and you want to go with it, go for it, right? But Layout Builder will give you the parent size. Also, I do not recommend Media Query unless you use it inside a Builder widget specifically, because that will make sure that it's only the Builder widget's context that's rebuilt. You can also actually cheat a bit and do Media Query from window, Media Query data from window, and give it the Dart window, the UI libraries window, and that will not listen to changes, but you can then examine them if you want to. Probably not a good idea, but you can do that. The other one is orientation builder, I think it's called. Orientation builder in the framework. And that lets you, all that does, to be clear, is it doesn't look at any sensors or anything like that. Orientation builder just says, is the width larger than the height? Then it's landscape. If it's the other way around, width is smaller than the height, then it's portrait. That's it. That's all it does. And you can build one yourself, or you can go look at the code. It's really straightforward. And it's the same as like a layout builder in that regard, right? So it's not once you remember, you can build. The whole idea of building widgets is you don't just like wrap every part of your screen in a layout builder. You build a widget called tablet or mobile, right? That inside it uses a layout builder and will use each builder or each child that you pass in depending on which layout it is. You can then put that widget that you've made, tablet or layout, across all spots of your application. The idea is that you need to like harness the power of Flutter and this composition framework to benefit you in what you're trying to do. You should not have repeated code, right? Repeated widgets, sets of widgets. These are all things that have a bad code smell. Why Crashlytics doesn't support web? I have no idea. I work for Google. I have no idea why it doesn't support web. I mean, Crashlytics primarily has been built inside Firebase, which has never been built for web. It was built for mobile initially, so it just doesn't support web yet. I mean, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't support web. I guess is this particularly like the Flutter package, because Firebase Crashlytics. There we go. Let's see. Is there a web variant? Oh, there isn't. So they don't. It doesn't exist for web yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, it might be that the library itself doesn't support web. I mean, the thing is, I don't know much about Crashlytics, the way it works under the hood. I mean, like you could do. You could look up the APIs. There might be like Google Crashlytics API or something. Look. Yes, is there REST API tracker? I have no idea.
Flutter Adam suggests that Sentry is enough for this requirement. So maybe
I could say that. I mean, that's the other one, right? Which is the one that I've put some code into and I've used myself, which is you got Sentry, which is just for Dart, which is fine, and this will do what you want it to do. And you've also got Sentry Flutter, which is the Flutter specific part, which has some works better with widgets and so on and so forth. It's designed for that. Yep. So yeah, that's the other option. There's plenty of other crash solutions. So, nothing particular.
And back on the previous question, apparently I called it correctly, responsive _ framework, that package particular does resizing of text. And you don't want to do that. So don't use that package.
Also, do not fiddle with text scale factor. Do not override it. Do not change it.
Oh, yes, definitely no.
And that's set by the frame. That's set by the operating system, so that the user can choose to scale your text. So when they're like half blind or they can't see it, like you want your app to be accessible, right?
Yep.
How to get the size of images captured from image picker? You have to decode the image. There's an API for that. Hang on, I'll bring that up. So if you go, it's basically what you're going to get back is a file path, and you need to decode the image, and it's decode image from list or from pixels. There's a few different ones. So list is the one you probably want. You basically read the file. So on the file object, you have a reads as bytes. Yeah, read as bytes. You get back a uint8 list. You take that uint list, you pass it to this, which is decode image from list, and what you get back in your callback is an image. And in that image, when it loads, if it loads, it doesn't load. No, oh, there it is. And inside this image, you get a width and height. There you go. Answer.
So there is a way to do it. Yes.
Yeah. There's always a way.
Yeah.
We want to migrate our super app mobile, which is based in React, to Flutter. Is it possible to have the original project under Flutter? We want to refactor gradually. No. Sorry.
No.
no, it's not going to happen. And I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, you could probably do some Flutter Web shenanigans, or you could probably do some like iframey kind of React stuff, or you could do maybe something else with like add to app and do some other weird things. But to be honest, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Start fresh. Start fresh.
You'd be better off, starting fresh and having, if you need to add feature improvements to your current existing product to ship it, do that over here whilst completely working on a separate code base and doing greenfield. Because you will have, as we said earlier with a previous answer, you would have learned so much from building a React app that you don't want to keep that structure or that format or that how it works. There's a better way of doing it, and you can do that straight in Flutter. So yeah, you can still refactor gradually, but you don't release until you've got it all transferred over, and then you can just do like a swap, right?
And you also have a manpower problem, because I'm pretty sure your React devs aren't going to want to work on Flutter and vice versa, because it's just so different of a framework. Well, they might, but
I mean, I hope they do. Let's be honest. That's what I hope.
Yeah, maybe they'll have to have jobs at some point.
Is there a way of finding out upcoming Flutter features before they are released?
This was the question that generated the roadmaps question.
Right. Yeah. So you got the roadmaps, and as there's the language funnel, which I can't find the Randall's thing now, but he posted earlier, which I will find here. This is it here. This is the language funnel, which shows you what new language features. And to be honest, go look at it's open source. GitHub.com/Flutter. You can go see what's being put into the code base and see what new features are coming or what changes have taken place. It's literally how we've always done it. That's how all of us, we just keep an eye on it and see.
I mean, I can't talk about this because as a Google developer expert, I am under an NDA. I get to hear things in our monthly meetings that I can't talk about, except it was funny because there was one comment that it's funny that we're sort of holding this secret with you guys, even though everything we're doing is already in commits in the repos. So everybody knows all these features already, except don't say anything until we actually release this. So that's kind of funny.
After I start using Dart personally, I never want to go back to JavaScript. Yeah, we have to convert. To be honest, like just types in general, and it's like, I kind of begin to start where where typing is just so important. As per your session, getting the size using media query and the builder method and sharing it throughout, right, and not doing it on every page. It makes sense. It just depends. You can do it a lot of different ways. If you do it at the top level, you're going to rebuild your entire app when the media query changes. However, what you can do is have it so that it updates a provider with the media query data, and then you can pick and choose which is how media query works in the first place. So I would say just do it. Just pick and choose and do it where you need to do it, because again, ideally you don't want to media query. Let me be clear. The reason why we say all this is that when the window size changes, on every little change of your window size, the entire screen might be rebuilt, because you're listening to media query at the top level, because the media query data changed because the size of the window has changed. So that's what you do not want to have happen. And especially as the whole idea of doing your layouts is that they naturally want to change, like having a fractional unit in or flex units in your expandeds and things like that mean that as the screen changes, they nicely flex, and that's layouts. That's just layout and painting. You're not rebuilding anything, right? So no widgets are being reconstructed, nothing's happening. So the idea of using examining media query and making those choices is down to you. You're at the top level. You can do the top level and go, oh, if it's less than 360 dips in width, or 360 or less, then it's a mobile phone. I am now going to do my mobile phone layout, and that's it. If it's greater than 360, I'm going to do my desktop layout or whatever. And you can just make the determination at top level, and that's it. That's the entire change to your app that you're going to have to make, right? But then you also might equally want to have something a bit more dynamic, so that it has a breakpoint, and at certain sizes, certain things change, right? Like like sometimes a good example of this is like having a toolbar. And you might have 10 items across the screen, and when on mobile you want 3 with an overflow ... and it pops with a pop-up menu. Well, that's something that you would do on that unit, right? And that way, if you reuse that widget elsewhere, like in a column, you instantly get that same behavior. It didn't have to be on a mobile to get that behavior. It's the way it's used. I think this is our last question. Should screens with controllers nested inside, should you use a stateful widget? I run into problems with stateless, but I may be implementing it wrong. That's just, you need to provide more context. Controllers, what, scroll controllers?
In general, like text editing controllers and scroll controllers need to be stored in state. So yes, you need a stateful widget for that, or you need to do tricks that I'm doing.
So first of all, to be clear, if you create a controller, it has to be stored in a state, right? Because it has to be disposed of. Like text editing controller and a scroll controller and pretty much every other controller in Flutter has a dispose method. You're meant to call that in your state objects dispose method. If you do not do that, you'll create a memory leak potentially, or have various random things happen. So you should be using the stateful widget to do that. If that makes sense.
But more than that, you also want to create those in your init state, because you don't want to create those in a build, because you'll be rebuilding it over and over again, which is not going to work either.
It's a bit like this. If you were to create your scroll controller every time build happens, your scroll they scroll down the screen. And in fact, I've seen this happen in mobile apps, not Flutter apps, all mobile apps. You scroll down, new data comes in, and then you reset straight to the top of the list, like you weren't somewhere in your app, right?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't be that bad developer, right?
Right.
Don't recreate,
reset
scroll positions on your users.
Yes.
There's another thing to remark on. There's also I'm going to bring this up because this is another not well-known widget. Primary scroll controller. So this is used inside the framework at the top level inside a. Let me hide this question, get a bit more room on the screen. This is used at the top level on your route, and it provides it associates a default scroll control for the top level. If you nest scrollable views, or you need to kind of have sort of some nesting of scrollables, or maybe 2 adjacent scrollable views, by default they'll try and both use the same prime scroll control, and you'll get some weird, funky things happening, maybe some errors. So what you can actually do is do primary scroll controller and just associate a new scroll control with an entire subtree, solving your problem. And you didn't have to pass a scroll controller explicitly down to any widget, because by default, they want to do primary scroll controller .of, which is a static method down here somewhere. There it is down here, to get the mostly closely associated scroll controller to the given context. So and there's also none. So you can say this subtree does not have a scroll controller as well. So this is this is not used as much as it should be for many people. It can solve a lot of things and simplify a lot of things. Anyway,
I have one quick item before we wrap.
Go for it.
I just wanted to, okay. So Remy, the creator of Provider, the very classic package that everybody starts with using, and then also now RiverPod, has actually recently announced that he is going to basically, if everything goes as planned, he's going to be deprecating Provider. And all that means is it's just going to get maintenance-only updates, and there won't be any new features added or any kind of parity with RiverPod at all anymore. Instead, he's seriously interested, and he says it's really doable to create a tool that will convert all your existing Provider code over to RiverPod. Now, that sounds great, because then we can get everything moved over. So I just wanted to let you know that that's bleeding edge stuff. Remy's, being not secretive, but just not a lot of details forthcoming. But he does say that the upcoming RiverPod 2.0 release will be somewhat radical in that it will include a path for Provider users as well.
On that note, there's a few little cleanup things I want to just bring up here. I don't know if anyone's seen this. It's called codecrafters.io. Practice writing complex software. I keep getting asked this question about like how can I learn how to do this complex software? And frankly, this is a nice little thing. So yeah, like, recreate Redis, Docker, Git in your own hands and gain expert knowledge. So literally takes you step by step through, and you can like Git clone, and it takes you step by step through on how you build these things in various languages. So I've explored this myself a little bit, and I think it's a really good starting point for beginners to understand how these complex softwares are built, almost from composition, so from these more simpler premises. So I'll post that link. We're not paid sponsor or anything like that. Like, I just thought this is a question I keep getting asked, so I thought I'd share it. And also, lastly, we have coming up, Flutter Vikings will be back next week, and then the week after that is the 31st of August, and we hope that we'll be doing a live stream from the conference 2 weeks away from now. But we'll be back next week, and we'll have another guest next week, and we'll see you then. So thank you for having us, and go get your tickets, fluttervikings.com.
Thanks, Simon.
See you then. See you
Simon.
later.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the chat room. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.